The night was cold, the air thick with fog that seemed to swallow everything in its path. In the darkened quiet of a remote stretch of highway just outside of Vallejo, California, two young lovers sat in their car, parked under the cover of trees, unaware that their lives were about to be violently stolen from them. Patty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were a couple like any other, their hearts full of useful dreams, and their laughter filled with the promise of tomorrow. But tomorrow would never come. Suddenly, the sound of car's engine broke the silence. A figure emerged from the shadows, wearing dark clothes, a sinister outline against the grey fog. Without a word, he approached their car, and then, in a brutal instant, he opened fire. Patty Lou screamed, but the sound was cut short by the cold, deliberate violence. David tried to escape, but the killer was faster, his shots steady and precise. By the time he left, it was over. Two young lives extinguished in an instant. The Zodiac Killer had claimed his first victims, but this was just the beginning. A year passed, and the fog still clung to the streets, as if hiding the truths that seemed to seep from the very ground. The Zodiac had grown bold, and on a summer night in 1969, he struck again, this time at Blue Rock Springs Park, a popular spot for couples. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mijou sat in their car, chatting, laughing, lost in their own world, when once more the figure emerged from the darkness. This time, the man walked toward them, his face masked, a gun in his hand. Without warning, the shots rang out. Darlene fell first, the bullet tearing into her chest. Michael was next, the gunman showing no mercy, but somehow he survived. The Zodiac's grip tightened around the neck of the city, and with it, the terror spread. But the real horror had yet to begin. As if the murders themselves weren't enough, the killer began to taunt the police and the press. He wasn't content to let his crimes speak for themselves. No, he wanted everyone to know exactly who was in control. In a series of chilling letters, the Zodiac not only claimed responsibility for the murders, but he also sent ciphers puzzles that he challenged the world to solve. His words were cold, calculated, dripping with mockery for the authorities who were desperately trying to catch him. "You will never catch me," one of the letters read, "because I have the freedom to kill." The killer's arrogance was staggering, and his words sent a chill down the spine of anyone who dared to read them. But it wasn't just the letters that terrified. The Zodiac didn't need to say much to leave his mark. One of his most infamous ciphers was included in a letter to a local newspaper, a cryptogram that, when solved, promised to reveal his true identity. The press went wild, and for a time, it seemed as though the solution might be within reach. But the code was never completely deciphered, and the mystery deepened. In the years that followed, the Zodiac continued to strike fire into the hearts of the city. With each letter, each cryptic message, each cold killing, he mocked law enforcement, demanding attention and reminding the world that he was still out there, still free. But then, as quickly as he had appeared, he vanished into the darkness. No more letters, no more murders. The police were left with nothing but questions, their hands tied by a string of cold, unsolvable mysteries. And yet, the most terrifying part of it all wasn't just the brutality of the killings or the cryptic messages. It was the unknown. Who was the killer? Why had he done it? And why had he stopped? To this day, the Zodiac Killer remains a shadow, his identity a lingering puzzle. His victims' families still wait for answers, for the truth to emerge from the fog. But the Zodiac, if he's still out there, is still hidden, and the city of Valio, like so many others, continues to live in the grip of that lingering fear.